It was intended to be a typical evening in the neighborhood, calm and unremarkable. However, fans and friends were completely taken aback by what happened next. About 8:15 p.m. According to insiders, Kirk was seen strolling into Jasmine's apartment complex, a move that instantly ignited social media. Whispers started to spread. He was there, but why? What was the true nature of his relationship with Jasmine? There would inevitably be rumors, but the timing of his arrival would set off a series of events that nobody could have imagined. 10 minutes later, Rasheeda drove up outside and looked around the place like a hawk. The tension was evident. According to witnesses, neighbors soon became aware of the loud shouts, the sound of rushed footsteps, and the distinct intensity of an impending clash. The reason for this unexpected visit is a topic of intense internet debate among fans who are astonished. Speculation was graphic, and people's emotions were running high as they insisted that it was a personal issue that had been exaggerated. Others claimed it was the beginning of a full-fledged battle in the spirit of reality TV. The family was split apart. The drama appeared to be about to turn into something remarkable as friends murmured to each other in secret. Behind those doors, what took place? Did old frustrations come up again? Was it a misconstrued coincidence? Or was this the moment that broke alliances? We get into the story that everyone is discussing tonight, removing the layers of deceit, secrecy, and surprising turns that can only be found in reality. When Kirk's figure was first seen sneaking through Jasmine's apartment building's entryway, the evening had just begun to settle. The picture appeared almost cinematic, as if reality itself had been stopped for dramatic effect, thanks to the deep shadows created by the streetlights. Behind curtains, neighbors muttered. The unexpected rush of activity piqued their interest. Kirk's countenance was inscrutable. The maelstrom of emotions simmering inside was hidden under a composed veneer. Before deciding to enter Jasmine's apartment, he had been pacing in his car and constantly checking his phone, according to people close to the scenario. His movements were methodical and purposeful, as if he was aware of how each one would be perceived by onlookers. Jasmine felt the moment before it occurred within. There was a hard yet gentle knock on the door. She paused, first looking at the time and then at her phone, which was constantly buzzing with alerts. There was an electrifying sense of expectation. Kirk appeared to be larger than life as she opened the door, as if the space itself had shrunk around him. He continued, "We need to talk," in a calm voice that carried a weight that suddenly made her heart accelerate. Although the words were straightforward, there was a tangible sense of tension behind them. With a false grin on her lips, Jasmine attempted to keep her cool while concealing the doubt that was simmering within. "About what?" she inquired, warily scanning the flat for any indication that she could comprehend the purpose of this unexpected visit. Kirk's eyes remained fixed. He appeared focused, resolute, and unfazed by the quiet observation of the vacant apartment. The world waited outside, and Rasheeda would come in a matter of minutes. A few late-night passers-by were startled by the sound of her automobile driving up. Her brows narrowed as she took in the sight as she went outside, her heels tapping forcefully on the sidewalk. The tension radiated like heat from a flame as she saw Kirk walk in. Immediately, the air was heavy with unspoken words, emotions were running high, and a storm was on its way. Inside, Kirk and Jasmine's talk rapidly became heated. What had begun as a cool, collected conversation quickly turned into accusations, miscommunications, and angry outbursts. "You can't just show up uninvited and expect everything to be fine," Jasmine said in a shaky but forceful voice. Kirk gave a calm, almost icy reaction. "I didn't come here to ask for permission. I came here in search of answers." The words hung thick in the air, wanting to be heard. Neighbors reported hearing an argument, language that alluded to betrayal, long-standing resentment, and the disclosure of private secrets. The drama wasn't only between two individuals. It might have a cascading effect on everyone involved. Friends, relatives, and even admirers who had spent months following their journey on the internet. Rasheeda's presence 10 minutes later completely altered the situation. Her presence was like a sudden rush of wind, disturbing everything within as she pounded hard on the door. The unmistakable vibe of someone who expected accountability stopped Kirk and Jasmine in their tracks. "What's going on here?" Rasheeda said in a harsh, suspicious, and hardly restrained voice. Rage. Jasmine sensed the tension in the room as Kirk slowly turned, his countenance opaque. In a tense quiet, the three of them stood watching each other's emotions and figuring out what to do next in a wordless struggle of wills. Phones out, recording views of a scenario that appeared ripped from a reality show script. Fans online were already speculating wildly, murmured onlookers outside. Rasheeda finally discovered, "Kirk is in serious trouble," one commenter said. The family was split up, with each member attempting to make sense of what had happened from a distance. Inside, The talk got more intimate as Kirk disclosed long-buried grudges, while some reached out to give support and others condemned actions without full understanding. "You don't understand what I've been going through," he added, his voice tight with passion as past disputes with Rasheeda and Jasmine surfaced in the heat of the moment. "Maybe if you had communicated instead of hiding, none of this would be happening." Jasmine shot back, her eyes flaming. Refusing to be ignored, Rasheeda took a step. "I am here to make sure no one plays games." "Enough with the secrets," she said in a cold tone. With accusations flying back and forth and tales of betrayals, broken promises, and miscommunications piling on top of one another, the room appeared to vibrate with raw emotion, each word striking like a hammer, revealing weaknesses and driving facts into the open. Fans were captivated by the revelations, each more startling than the last, and social media was ablaze with conjecture and criticism. Anybody who had followed their entwined lives would have been captivated by the drama's flawless timing. As the evening wore on, surprising turns occurred, and Kirk acknowledged doing things that shocked both ladies, revelations that no one had expected. Rasheeda's presence served as both a barrier and a shield, while Jasmine's responses were a mix of shock, hurt, and a restrained rage. Catalyst arguments intensified, halted, and then intensified once again as a result of her demands for openness, which forced every secret, no matter how painful, into the bright light. Every beat maintained the highest level of intensity, interspersed with silences and pauses where the room felt the weight of old frustrations. Snippets of talks slipped beyond the apartment walls, and the neighbors' curiosity evolved to intrigue as unedited, raw, and unyielding emotions surfaced. Phrases like, "I trusted you," and "How could you?" became the evening's music, while fans debated affiliations, motivations, and probable repercussions online. Relationships were stressed to the breaking point, and what had started off as a seemingly casual visit had turned into a dramatic reveal of personal stakes. Finally, secrets were revealed. Rasheeda's phone buzzed persistently as Kirk started to describe a string of choices that had caused miscommunications for months. She looked at it, her countenance changing from guarded wrath to the three of them came to the realization that the evening was far from finished, and that the drama that was developing would have an impact on those outside of the flat. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife, yet there were also subtle movements, glances exchanged, and quiet talks taking place that suggested future clashes or reconciliations. By midnight, the situation had developed into a complicated web of accusations, confessions, and startling admissions. Every breath served as a warning that one mistake might turn into disaster. Every character's personal stakes were exposed, including Kirk's objectives, Jasmine's responses, and Rasheeda's conclusions. Everyone who came into contact with the drama was drawn in by its magnetic pull, as their weaknesses were revealed in ways that did not allow for pretending. What transpired was a masterclass in reality TV style, tension, strategic pauses, and side commentary. From neighbors to devoted fans, social media platforms were similar with speculation, theories, and side commentary, creating a virtual audience that seemed as invested as the people inside the apartment. Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda handled the constant strain of scrutiny, premeditated revelations, and emotional confrontations in various ways, each of their unique personalities and backgrounds influencing their strategy, adding layers of intricacy that captivated onlookers. As the evening went on, alliances changed, transient truces emerged, and underlying tensions suggested future conflicts. It was evident that this one evening, just 10 minutes had passed between Kirk's and Rasheeda's arrivals, setting off a series of events that would reverberate well beyond the apartment's walls. Every statement, gesture, and look served as fodder for conjecture. Even though the night was still young, it had already proven to be unforgettable, and the tale taking place inside Jasmine's apartment promised more intricate turns that kept viewers captivated. Every moment was heightened by the knowledge that everyone was watching, waiting for the next dramatic turn. With only 10 minutes separating Kirk's entry and Rasheeda's arrival, it was evident that this one evening had set off a series of events that would reverberate far beyond the apartment's walls. As the night went on, alliances changed, transient truces formed, and underlying tensions hinted at future confrontations. The world was watching, waiting for the next dramatic move, and every word, gesture, and glance became fuel for conjecture. The night, yet early, had the room felt smaller now, the air heavier with unsaid tension as Kirk, Jasmine, and the tale taking place within Jasmine's apartment promised more twists, deeper discoveries, and a spectacle of human emotion that would be analyzed and pondered for weeks to come. Kirk leaned against the wall with his arms crossed and his eyes darting as Rasheeda continued their verbal battle. Every look bore weight, every action felt exaggerated, and the emotions of the previous months burst with surprising force. "You don't get it," he replied, his voice tight with irritation. "This isn't about games or drama," he added, attempting to keep some sort of control between the two ladies, while simultaneously letting the truth come out. "Respect and the decisions taken while no one else was there are at issue." Jasmine shook her head and took a disbelieving step back. "After everything you've done, show respect." Her voice cracked slightly as she requested after all the falsehoods, revealing the pain she had been suppressing. Rasheeda had a stiff stance, her hands firmly positioned on her hips. "Enough," she remarked in a harsh tone. "We won't use shouting to resolve this. However, we will resolve it by confronting reality." The sound of passing automobiles outside was a stark contrast to the storm building within. The typical evening is suddenly the setting for a remarkable play. Kirk took a big breath and considered what to say next. "You both need to comprehend some facts that clarify why I behaved the way I did." For a brief moment, Jasmine's look softened. "It's context, not excuses." A glimmer of interest battled her rage. "Then begin speaking," she urged, crossing her arms and waited. Rasheeda, adding, "I never want to miss a beat. Additionally, don't withhold anything. Kirk, everything you say better be the truth." Few people could have seen the depths of personal tension that emerged from the subsequent chat. Expected. Kirk described events during the previous few months, choices taken under duress, and instances of misunderstandings that had escalated into animosity. The conversation was passionate, interspersed by moments when words didn't appear to be as powerful as silence. "You think I wanted this?" Kirk tried to say. "Do you think I liked keeping things hidden, or seeing everything come apart?" Jasmine gently shook her head, taking in what he had said, but Rasheeda's piercing eyes stayed fixated. Picking up on every nuanced change in mood, unexpected turns appeared as the discoveries progressed. Kirk revealed that neither lady had been aware of a private discussion he had had with a common acquaintance, a message that offered a whole different perspective on past occurrences. The consequences were explosive, making Rasheeda and Jasmine reevaluate their presumptions. "Are you saying that I've been misinterpreting things all along?" With a mix of astonishment and growing awareness, Jasmine inquired. Rasheeda is still dubious. She crossed her arms and replied, "We'll see if that's really the whole story." Feelings intensified, fluctuating between moments of hesitant comprehension, horror, and rage. Once seemingly simple accusations suddenly had additional nuances. The dynamics of trust, loyalty, and treachery were put to the test when previously concealed secrets came to light. As never before. Outside, the news quickly made its way to social media. Every moment, action, and phrase that may reveal the actual nature of the quarrel was being scrutinized by fans. One commenter said, "This is unreal. I can't believe Kirk just admitted that." Rasheeda's response is crucial, according to another. The drama that was developing had garnered attention on a global scale. A perfect storm of surprising truths, emotional turbulence, and personal stakes. Kirk's explanations caused a brief pause within, a precarious ceasefire in which tensions were high, yet dialogue flowed with a little more serenity. Rasheeda stayed alert, refusing to succumb to the momentary calm, while Jasmine reclined back against the couch, taking in every word. But it was obvious that the evening was far from ended. The uneasy peace was broken just as Kirk believed he had made his point. A neighbor had come to check in, seemingly alarmed by the ruckus, adding an unanticipated layer of embarrassment to the already tense mood. The three were compelled by the interruption to stop, regroup, and think about how their private conflict was now intertwined with public opinion. The scope of what was going on within the flat was hinted at by whispers outside. The interaction had spread beyond the three people, attracting both fans and the society, transforming a private disagreement into a show with genuine consequences. The neighbor left, and the discussion picked up where it had left off. Another surprise was disclosed by Kirk. The story was further complicated by a private communication from an unidentified source that appeared to validate concerns. Rasheeda said to herself, "This changes everything," in a combination of calculation and shock. As she took in the information, Jasmine's hands shot to her face as her thoughts raced. She said, "I can't believe this. How could I have been unaware of this?" The evening's events resembled a meticulously planned play with highs and lows in suspense. There were epiphanies interspersed with calculated pauses, all helping to create a narrative that seemed unreal. The personal stakes of each individual were emphasized, and the possible repercussions loomed large over their relationships. Defenses and prior grievances were raised in response to accusations. Repeated and hidden connections were alluded to, resulting in a story that was both complex and dramatic. Online fans analyzed every detail, speculating on potential outcomes and future events. The sentimental every remark, share, and response fueled the flames in the digital realm, which paralleled the roller coaster inside the flat. The conflict peaked as the clock approached the wee hours of the morning. Kirk, Rasheeda, and Jasmine were on the verge of either total emotional collapse or reconciliation. The game had changed as a result of Kirk's discoveries. Perceptions had changed as a result of Jasmine's answers, and Rasheeda's as both an arbiter and a participant. Judgment loomed. The stress was intolerable. The excitement was almost palpable. There were several conceivable scenarios, each more explosive than the previous, and the stage was prepared for a dramatic finale. Every transaction was significant. Every choice they made would affect not just their relationships but also how everyone is observing. The events of the evening were a study in human emotion, a high-stakes confrontation of vulnerability, loyalty, deceit, and truth. The drama was flawlessly dramatic while being spontaneous, the type of suspense that holds viewers' attention and prevents them from turning away. The reasons of each character were revealed, every emotion examined, every possible turning point in the current story. Kirk's entry into Jasmine's flat was no longer the only plot point. It had developed into an intricate tale of human frailty, power struggles, and emotional disclosures that captivated everyone who saw it. As the evening wore on, the discussions created a web of mystery, tension, and deep emotional involvement. The consequences of this conflict were sure to have an impact on everyone's life. The fans, friends, and family are all drawn to a reality drama that is developing. With each minute that went by, the tension in the flat seemed to increase. Kirk's explanations had revealed more than simply miscommunications. They exposed layers of deceit, devotion, and unresolved animosity. Jasmine was still in shock by the scope of Kirk's admissions. Her voice rose and fell like waves smashing against a rock as she paced the little living room. With a tone that blended sadness and fury, she replied, "I can't believe you kept all this from me." Kirk's answer was calm, almost practiced. However, a mixture of defiance and shame was seen in his eyes. "Jasmine, I didn't hide anything from you to harm you. Despite the fact that it may appear otherwise, everything I did was done to keep everyone safe." Sensing the subtle machinations at work, Rasheeda, ever the watchful watcher, narrowed her gaze. "This entire night proves that your idea of protection is just chaos, disguised as concern," she said, her voice cutting like a dagger across the room as she defended Kirk. The way the words interacted was tenacious. The three experienced a range of emotional highs. Accusations are hurled like daggers. Justifications presented as protective barriers. In a tempest of unadulterated emotion, the past, present, and possible future clashed. Kirk revealed more surprising information. Some of them included common acquaintances who had unintentionally added to the stress, which left Jasmine feeling incredulous. With eyes wide and a voice almost audible above a whisper, she questioned, "So you're telling me that everything I thought I knew, all of it might have been twisted behind my back?" Shocked, Rasheeda's judgment was clear as her lips compressed into a narrow line. "It's exactly what I've been trying to warn you about," she stated in a stern yet measured tone. Confessions, denials, and counter-arguments danced delicately throughout the evening. Outside, supporters were analyzing every event through the prism of social media. "This is crazy." Just one post read with screenshots of conjectural discussion. "In this play, Rasheeda is the ultimate boss." According to another, "Now Kirk has no chance." The atmosphere was practically palpable in the apartment. Kirk kept making revelations, the stakes getting worse with each one. Men's and women's previous errors, the unspoken grudges and covert betrayals surfaced. Periodically, Jasmine's rage flashed, but it was subdued by reflective periods. She ran a hand through her hair and said, "I don't even know what to feel anymore." Hair, glancing back and forth between Rasheeda and Kirk, with her imposing presence filling the room, Rasheeda's patience was running low. "Jasmine, feel whatever you need to feel, but don't think we can continue to deny the reality." With a tone that left no opportunity for disagreement, she declared, "The time for excuses is over." Kirk moved closer in an effort to take back control of the discussion. "I don't want to fight." With a forceful yet sincere voice, he declared, "I'm here to make things right, to finally clear the air." Each participant considered their statements as the clash changed from a furious struggle to a tense discussion. Cautiously realizing the impact of the night's disclosures, outside, neighbors kept speculating. A small group of people gathered covertly, phones in hand, documenting ephemeral moments that would unavoidably feed internet disputes. Drama had spread beyond Jasmine's apartment and into the digital realm. where fans scrutinized every move and nuance. The combination of private and public scrutiny created an additional layer of complexity, requiring the trio to manage not only their feelings, but also their perception of the outside world. Kirk disclosed an unexpected turn of events, a discussion that had taken place weeks earlier but had been kept under wraps for fear of retaliation. The specifics were explosive, implicating not just himself but those who had previously been thought to be allies. Jasmine was shocked and outraged at the same time. "So everything I thought I could trust," she said. Everything was. Rasheeda's eyes softened somewhat as she realized the importance of the discovery. "Manipulated or misunderstood," she shouted, her voice rising in incredulity. With a tone that was both authoritative and worried, she stated, "The truth is out now, and now we decide how to move forward." This time, the topic changed. Concentrating on intents and outcomes, Kirk defended his actions, clarifying his motivations and making an effort to fill up any gaps with vulnerability and clarity. Jasmine listened, divided between doubt and the need to, as hours went by. The conflict took on the intensity of a high-stakes reality show as Rasheeda kept an eye on every response, her strategic presence directing the drama and making sure that every disclosure was greeted with accountability. Every person had to negotiate not just their emotions but also the expectations and judgments, with moments of vulnerability interspersed with fierce confrontations and quiet interspersed with emotionally charged outbursts. Of those seeing from a distance, the evening was everything but straightforward, with unexpected turns and long-standing issues reappeared, and fresh perspectives disproved earlier theories. Jasmine's erratic responses, Rasheeda's unrelenting examination, and Kirk's repeated disclosures produced a complicated tapestry of human emotion. We're captivated. The story was no longer confined to the flat. Ideas, memes, and contentious debates filled social media. Inside, the three of them resumed their verbal sparring, now tempered with periods of introspection as Kirk sought understanding. It had turned into a public spectacle, a drama playing out in real time, capturing attention and igniting debate. Jasmine insisted on clarification, while Rasheeda made sure that everyone was held accountable. The intensity fluctuated, with each revelation having greater impact than the last. And the vibe changed significantly as the early morning hours drew near. Kirk's last confessions of the evening set the stage for possible reconciliation. But the seriousness of the night's events persisted despite wariness and residual rage. The night had evolved from a straightforward confrontation into a complex investigation of trust, loyalty, and individual responsibility. Even though Jasmine's hesitant answers suggested a cautious openness to conversation, Rasheeda continued to be the stabilizing force, striking a balance between emotional intensity and strategic oversight. By the time dawn started to crawl over the horizon, the three had come to a precarious agreement as every word, look, and gesture added to a story of high emotional stakes, uncertain endings, and unadulterated human drama. Even though the narrative was far from over, it had attracted audiences both in person and online, laying the stage for future developments, responses, and ongoing conjecture. The clash had revealed raw realities, challenged loyalties, and left lasting impressions on everyone involved. Once a modest place to live, the flat had been transformed into a stage for a reality drama extravaganza that would reverberate in postings, discussions, and conversations for days, weeks, and possibly even months to come. The delicate quiet that had descended upon the flat was fleeting. Every participant had been transformed, every connection had been put to the test, and the night's events promised continued. Ripple effects that would guarantee the drama remained a topic of curiosity long after the primary clash ended. As Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda believed they had made it through the hardest part of the evening, a new level of tension suddenly surfaced, taking them all by surprise. Still recuperating from the earlier emotional assault, Kirk moved uneasily, his eyes darting toward the phone resting on. He paused before picking up the coffee table, which had been buzzing nonstop with updates from friends, relatives, and even fans who somehow knew something was going on. The message he saw caused all three of them to halt. Jasmine leaned forward with a mixture of fascination and trepidation as she read the explosive contents. A piece of knowledge that no one had anticipated and that threatened to add to the tenuous agreement they had just arrived at. "What is it?" Sensing the seriousness of the situation, she queried in a cautious tone. Kirk's lips were pushed together while he read, gaze he narrowed and mumbled, almost to himself, "This changes everything." Before turning to face the two ladies and meeting Rasheeda's piercing stare right once, she said, "Spit it out. Kirk, what are you hiding now?" In a demanding tone that didn't allow for any hesitation or justifications. It was shocking to learn that a common friend who had long been regarded as reliable had been spreading false information, causing miscommunications and rising tensions in the background. The ramifications were astounding. Jasmine's expression turned pale as amazement gave way to incredulity. All of my convictions and our disagreements were controlled. Yes, and she said, her voice quivering with passion. Kirk nodded slowly, his face displaying a mixture of shame and fury. I only recently learned about it. His voice was thick with earnestness as he stated, I came here to clarify, to finally set things straight. Rasheeda's response was a mix of measured judgment and disbelief. The room appeared to seize its breath as she inquired sharply, so all this time, the chaos wasn't even directly caused by you two. Her eyes narrowing as she took it all in. Tensions remained high, but a new dynamic evolved as the discovery reframed every disagreement, allegation, and misunderstanding that had occurred during the night. Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda were momentarily united against an outside force by the discovery of a common adversary, or, at the very least, a single source of deceit. The conversation changed from confrontational to strategic. Jasmine's fury subsided a little when Kirk described the series of events that had resulted in the miscommunication, using timestamps, messages, and eyewitness reports. Relieved, she ran a hand through her hair and remarked, I can't believe we let this fester for so long, her voice trembling with residual emotion. Rasheeda, remaining solid, acknowledged the disclosure with a little nod. Required a reevaluation of earlier decisions. We need to be smarter now, she stated. If we're going to move forward, we have to deal with the real issues, not the distractions. Outside, the neighborhood was alive with rumors. Neighbors told her bits and pieces of their conversations, their imaginations running wild. Social media had already blown up, with fans guessing about the invisible hand responsible for the mayhem. This is insane, one remark said. Another remarked, wait until the truth comes out fully. Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda are actually in the midst of a real-life thriller. This is larger than we anticipated. As the three started planning, the apartment's internal dynamics changed once more. Eager to accept accountability and restore confidence, Kirk suggested a number of actions to make the issue clear in private and in public. Cautious but interested, Jasmine thought about the ramifications. Balancing the prospect for resolution against the emotional cost, Rasheeda, always the judge, set limits, requirements, and expectations for ongoing conversation. The evening had developed into a complicated negotiation, rather than only being about old complaints, striking a balance between emotional survival, transparency, and responsibility. Every revelation changed how they interacted, requiring them to reevaluate their priorities, and allegiances. As the evening went on, Kirk made frank confessions and explanations that revealed layers of miscommunication, as Jasmine Rasheeda's presence made sure that no misrepresentation or diversion went undetected as they struggled to assimilate contradictory feelings. Her sharp inquiries demand transparency and responsibility at every stage. The discussion, however hot at times, but it also permitted vulnerable moments. Kirk talked about his own unspoken worries, regrets, and concerns, revealing aspects of himself that were previously hidden. In response, Jasmine expressed cautious empathy, occasionally lowering her tone as she recognized his humanity in the middle of the mayhem. The three of them walked a tightrope, striking a balance between suspicion and tentative trust, conflict and sympathy. Outside, both spectators and admirers were enthralled with what was happening. Commentary on social media was constant. An instant response to the disclosures of the evening, predictions were passionately discussed, theories were put out, and alliances were conjectured. Watching a live reality show is similar to this, a fan commented. The tension, the mysteries. Rasheeda is the only one preventing this from completely spiraling. She's a queen, remarked another. Kirk added yet another surprising twist back inside. There was evidence that certain exchanges had been misconstrued because of insufficient background. This revelation made the story much more complex, compelling Jasmine too and Rasheeda to reconsider their own reactions and conclusions. In addition to Kirk's conduct on each person was fully aware that the disclosures of the evening may permanently alter relationships. Raising the emotional stakes, discussions alternated between confrontation, explanation, and introspection. The excitement in the room was almost electric. Earlier accusations were re-examined with fresh perspectives, defenses were re-evaluated, and new information changed how the evening unfolded. Betrayal, loyalty, miscommunication, and the intricacy of human relationships were all on full show. The trio's wariness became apparent as the hours passed. However, They were driven ahead by the necessity for a solution. The conversation was interspersed with quiet moments, letting the burden of revelations to resolve. Although stressful, the cadence formed by Kirk's sincere explanations, Jasmine's careful receptivity, and Rasheeda's calculated oversight allowed for gradual understanding. The drama of the evening had evolved from a straightforward, unannounced visit into a complex tale of misunderstandings, covert plans, and emotional vulnerability. Every action, look, and word had an impact, influencing opinions in the apartment as well as among the larger internet audience. The evolving narrative served as a testimonial to the erratic character of human interaction under pressure, where perception, emotion, and reality blended to create captivating yet volatile results. Dawn was coming, to reach the horizon, illuminating the flat with a subtle glow that marked the conclusion of one chapter but also suggested more upheaval. Despite their weariness, Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda had successfully negotiated many emotional storms, confrontations, and revelations, laying the groundwork for subsequent exchanges that predicted more dramatic, perceptive, and maybe explosive developments. The flat was hardly lit by the gentle morning light. However, the atmosphere remained tense, as though the tension had been imprinted by the night itself. Onto the walls, while Jasmine collapsed into the couch, her thoughts repeating every statement and revelation from the previous hours. Kirk remained standing close to the window and gazed out, obviously lost in contemplation. Rasheeda stayed standing, a guardian in the space, her gaze sweeping over both of them to gauge their emotions, responses, and possible weaknesses. The evening had questioned presumptions that each had held for months, if not years, and revealed secrets and unfiltered emotions. At last, Kirk shattered the quiet. With regret and resolve in his voice, he replied softly, "I know this doesn't fix anything overnight. However, we cannot allow this to go on in the dark." Jasmine nodded slowly, still taking in the information. "Everyone deserves to know the truth. It's too much to handle. I'm not sure where to begin or how to respond." With a voice full of weariness and lingering astonishment, she acknowledged, like a referee overseeing a game. Rasheeda's tone was measured yet forceful. "Be honest first," she added. "No omissions, no partial truths. We either put everything on the table or nothing happens." Once more, the dynamic changed from conflict to a laborious negotiating emotional space. Kirk revealed previously concealed objectives and motives by recounting occurrences from months ago that had been misconstrued. Jasmine's responses wavered between comprehension, shock, and annoyance. "So all this time, I've been reacting to shadows of misunderstanding?" she questioned in disbelief. Kirk gave a nod. His stance betrayed his guilt. "Just that. A cascade has occurred. Every misunderstanding feeds the next. I also accept accountability for my role. Rasheeda is not one to let feelings influence her decisions." Spoke up. "The remaining individuals are those who have an impact on views due to external intervention." Her tone sliced through the room with surgical precision as she remarked, "We need clarity there too." Reluctantly, Kirk revealed information concerning external factors. Friends and acquaintances who had subtly contributed to the escalation of hostilities. The issue became more complicated as each new information built over the one before it, forming a tapestry of Jasmine's hands sporadically flew to her face, her eyes wide as her mind raced to correlate the knowledge due to human error, deceit, and poor judgment. "It's a lot. How can we possibly comprehend all of this?" Her voice was almost heard as she whispered. Rasheeda's stance softened a little, acknowledging the gravity of the revelation. "We handle it step by step. Time, but we don't disregard it. The effects, the feelings, and the harm are genuine," she stated. That even though the discourse was laborious, it started to show hints of potential reconciliation, and Kirk's openness gave Jasmine glimmers of understanding. However, Rasheeda's direction prevented spirals of resentment by keeping the conversation grounded. The community has begun its morning ritual outside. However, the drama from the night before continued to reverberate. Social media had taken off. Fans are analyzing every second and speculating about alliances, motivations, and possible consequences. "This goes beyond reality television," a fan commented. "The layers," another remarked. "Rasheeda is literally controlling the narrative. Kirk and Jasmine have no chance without her. Her deception and emotion are insane." Inside, Kirk unveiled yet another revelation, a set of misconstrued signals that, when correctly evaluated, presented earlier encounters in a completely different light. Jasmine's gaze grew wide. "Thus, we believed that the battles were about us. They weren't," she said, her astonishment blending with her growing awareness. Kirk gave a nod. "Not totally. Misunderstandings were piled on top of manipulations, and the situation became out of control. But at last, we can deal with it." Rasheeda's face relaxed a little. Despite this, her tone remained stern. "We have to address it. Shadows and excuses are no longer acceptable. If we want any appearance of peace, we must confront it head-on," she stated. There was a delicate balance between tiredness and catharsis as the room throbbed with emotion. Kirk's confessions, Jasmine's hesitant comprehension, and Rasheeda's calculated a pattern of conflict, introspection, and tentative settlement was established by supervision. The drama had beyond personal boundaries. It was now a show, monitored and examined in real time by a viewership eager for rumors, conjecture, and insight, both within and beyond the room. Every subtlety, gesture, and expression had weight. Unexpected emotional moments surfaced as the talk went on. Vulnerable and candid, Kirk talked about his own anxieties about losing connections, respect, and trust. For her part, Jasmine struggled with mixed feelings, caught between incredulity and the need to provide forgiveness. The conversation was led by Rasheeda, whose presence served as a balancing factor, guaranteeing integrity while upholding accountability. New revelations, explanations, and sporadic altercations interspersed the night as the hours went by. Even though the drama was tremendous, it started to provide a possible way ahead. However, there was constant conjecture about the subject outside of social media. Fans and onlookers discussed minute specifics, analyzing actions, deciphering facial expressions, and speculating about the final results. Kirk recently revealed some shocking facts. One remark read, "I can't believe Jasmine's reactions. She's handling it better than I expected." Rasheeda is the true MVP, according to another post. The three of them sorted through layers of old grievances, miscommunications, and emotional baggage. She's preventing things from devolving into anarchy. Because of Kirk's candor, there was room for conversation that had previously unattainable. Tentative trust was made possible by Jasmine's emotional candor. Because of Rasheeda's strategic inquiries and demand for responsibility, manipulation, or deflection, once a private place, the flat had become a stage for a high-stakes play, a furnace of passion, disclosure, and interpersonal compromise. By mid-morning, fatigue blended with a cautious optimism. Even if they were challenging, the disclosures had started to provide clarity. There were transient truces. A shaky understanding developed after tentative agreements were achieved. However, everyone was aware that the night's events had permanently changed relationships. The implications were far-reaching, the truths profound, and the drama fierce. In addition to dealing with personal disclosures, Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda also had to deal with the demands of outside scrutiny, rumors on social media, and the expectations of those who were interested in their narrative. The flat was lit differently in the morning than it had been at night. However, the aftermath of the night's events persisted, serving as a reminder that the effects of emotional upheaval persisted even during the day. The story promised more twists, surprises, and conflicts even if it was momentarily quieter. Watching with rapt eyes, the aftermath played out both within the flat and in the larger world. Finally, a brittle quiet has replaced the tumult of the night. However, the plot doesn't go too far from it. Fans were left stunned, hearts pounding, and minds buzzing with conjecture as Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda faced realities, revealed covert goals, and negotiated a maze of emotions. Tension, secrets, and allegations have all contributed to the scene for what could be the most talked-about repercussions in the history of modern reality dramas. Alliances were put to the test, allegiances were called into question, and weaknesses were exposed, leaving the family split yet oddly bonded by the weight of shared experiences. However, the crucial issue still stands. What should they do next? Will Kirk's admissions heal the cracks? Or will fresh betrayals appear out of nowhere? Is Jasmine able to forgive while maintaining her dignity? And will the storm continue to be guided by Rasheeda's strategic presence? Or will feelings ultimately swing the scales? More than ever, the audience is a part of the story, seeing every look, every word, and every pause that can lead to a reconciliation or spark another violent altercation. This is your chance to share your ideas in the comments section below. Who, in your opinion, is speaking the whole truth? Who will emerge from this situation? And who could give in to the pressure of their decisions? If you've been watching this crazy drama nonstop, hit the like button. Additionally, remember to subscribe so you never miss a single turn in the tumultuous tale of Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda. Keep an eye out because if there's one thing this evening has taught us, it's that in the realm of high-stakes reality television, the next shocking revelation is always just around the bend. Your viewpoint is important. As the story progresses, share your thoughts with us and participate in the discussion.